Back in the Young Turks, Michael Schur. In the studio today is one Nick Robinson, who a long time ago when the Young Turks started, Nick was, we were doing the show in Cenk's living room, and the first time I did it, there were about, about 3 people in his living room and 1 person listening. And Nick was a rigged caller, so she would call in every once in a while and say, "Hey, and ask questions, and we'd answer the questions." So she was our listener, and I believe had a different name whenever she called. Anyway, it's great to see Nick back here at the Young Turks, among the original voices of the Young Turks on the phone. In any case, back to fabulous news out of Republican politics. The grand old party, the GOP, has decided in Pennsylvania that they want to change the way we elect our president. And it is at once scary and at once foolish. The whole way that the Electoral College is assigned and electoral votes are assigned is governed by the states. So in effect, the states do matter. Whether you elect a state legislature or a state house, a state senate, a governor in your state can determine exactly how you elect your president. What Pennsylvania is trying to do right now is change the way it's done. Right now, let's say you're in a state that has 10 electoral votes. That means you have 8 congressional districts, and then you get 1 for each senator. So you have 10 electoral votes. Well, Pennsylvania has right now, I believe, 23 electoral votes. I may be wrong on that right now. Maybe somebody can check that. It doesn't really matter for the purposes of this conversation. What they want to do is to say that every district is worth 1 electoral vote, and the statewide is worth 2. So you could win, for example, the popular vote in the state of Pennsylvania and lose the electoral vote, because let's say there are 10 or 12 Republican-leaning districts and 6 or 7 Democratic-leaning districts, and then you get the 2 for the state. Well, you could win the statewide vote, but in these districts, they get 1 vote here, 1 vote here, 1 vote here, and it's kind of a push. And in a big state, a big Rust Belt, important electoral state like Pennsylvania, that could totally change the way that we elect our presidents, and it could certainly hurt President Obama. Pennsylvania has been a reliable Democratic presidential state. It's interesting. In 2000, Al Gore won Pennsylvania, and Rick Santorum won a Senate seat in Pennsylvania. It's one of the most mysterious moments in political history. I don't understand how statewide they could have voted for Al Gore, and all those people also could have voted for Rick Santorum. It doesn't make any sense. Rick Santorum, by the way, just as bad then as he is now. So it's not like he was just this sort of liberal guy who kind of became conservative. No, just as bad as he always was. But what is really scary about doing this is taking away a major state for the Democrats. It is rigging the system in a way. It's done in Maine, it's done in Nebraska, and 48 other states, they elect the president the exact same way. They elect, it's a winner take all. If you win one state, you win all the electoral votes. In Maine and Nebraska, it's different. The fact that that happens in Maine and Nebraska is not as impactful because they're such small states. Also, the chances of winning the popular vote in Maine and losing the electoral vote, practically impossible in both those states because of the small populations. However, in Pennsylvania, that would not be the case. And I think that it's important that Democrats, there's no legal way around this, but what Democrats, certainly in Pennsylvania and around the country, have to do is prove how distasteful and unfair this is, which is a very idealistic and almost silly thing for me to say, because how do you do that? Well, the more people see things rigged, the more they don't like them. Even, I will dare say this, even if they're Republicans. And I think that what's going on in Pennsylvania could totally unelect this president, because it is such an important state. And that whole area is whether it's Pennsylvania, Ohio, money's not going to go into Pennsylvania. But the flip side of that is that it marginalizes you in Pennsylvania. So if you want yourselves to be important in the presidential race, if you want the issues of Pennsylvania to have attention paid to them, then this is bad for Pennsylvania in the long run. The governor, Tom Corbett of Pennsylvania, seems to say that he would sign something like this, seems to indicate that he would. Both houses of the state legislature there seem to say that they want to press ahead with this. This is major election news. This is much more major than what happened in the 9th District of New York last night or the 2nd District in Nevada last night. This is major election news, because if we change the way we elect our presidents and we allow the states to totally really gerrymander the way this happens, we allow them to do the redistricting, and that seems like it's enough. If they can draw the congressional districts to their favor, that we know that going in. But if we elect a Republican or an all-Democrat for that matter, all-Democratic, an entirely Democratic state legislature, and then in the middle we decide, oh, well, we're also going to change the election rules, how we elect our presidents, that doesn't seem right, it doesn't seem fair, and it also marginalizes the people of the state. It seems to me the people of Pennsylvania should have a right to vote on that. And someone has to step in. I'm sure legally they will try to do that, but I don't know, looking at it right now, what kind of a legal leg to stand on they have. If you don't like this, please let your state legislators know it. And please, if there's any kind of way to impact it from outside the state of Pennsylvania, it has to be done, because this plan seems like it's going to, it seems effective, it seems smart, but it seems like a loophole to the presidency. And we've seen that happen already there. Let's go back a little bit to I took that departure because it's such an important thing that's going on in Pennsylvania. But again, to talk about how we elect people and the differences between the Republicans and the Democrats, I want to go back to that debate a little bit and to talk a little bit about Ron Paul, a little bit about the way Republicans view our country and their place in the world and their responsibility and their elitism. Let's listen, please, to this is clip 4. This is Ron Paul talking about al-Qaeda.
The purpose of al-Qaeda was to attack us, invite us over there where they can target us, and they have been doing it. They have more attacks against us and the American interest per month than occurred in all the years before 9/11. But we're there occupying their land, and if we think that we can do that and not have retaliation, we're kidding ourselves. We have to be honest with ourselves. What would we do if another country, say China, did to us what we do to all those countries over there? So,
you know, when you hear Ron Paul, sometimes it's like, this guy knows what he's talking about. I'm going to read more about this guy. I want to support Ron Paul. And then you read about other things he says, and you hear him on healthcare, and you hear him on Israel, and you hear him in other ways talking about issues that affect us every day, and you say you want to stay away from him. But, you know, he is deviating, and he got applause for it, from a sort of a Republican maxim there in saying that somehow al-Qaeda is, you know, that our being there is inciting more. Whereas you would think that 4 years ago, when George Bush and John McCain were talking about the furtherance of presence and staying over there and increasing our presence and surging. Remember surges? Remember we had a surge, and the surge saved the world? Remember the surge in Iraq, how, Iraq is just going to be this democracy because George Bush finally got it and we had the surge, and look how great things are going. You know, it's interesting to see this at play now in front of Republicans. What do they want? It is impossible to see moment to moment what makes Republicans tick, what they're looking for in a candidate, and what the right thing to say is at a Republican debate. The only sympathy I have for these people running for the Republican nomination is I don't know what the people in the audience want to hear. Let's listen now to our old friend Rick Santorum talk with Ron Paul. This is clip number 5.
And we were not attacked because of our actions. We were attacked, as Newt talked about, because we have a civilization that is antithetical to the civilization of the jihadists. And they want to kill us because of who we are and what we stand for. And we stand for American exceptionalism. We stand for freedom and opportunity for everybody around the world. And I am not ashamed to do that.
30 seconds, Mr. Paul.
as long as this country follows that idea, we're going to be under a lot of danger. This whole idea that the whole Muslim world is responsible for this and they're attacking us because we're free and prosperous, that is just not true. Osama bin Laden and al-Qaeda have been explicit. They have been explicit, and they wrote and said that we attacked America because you had bases on our Holy Land in Saudi Arabia. You do not give Palestinians a fair treatment, and you have been bombing I didn't say that. I'm trying to get you to understand what the motive was.
Yeah, I mean, they're booing and applauding. It's just confusing what they want to hear. You know, I love how Rick Santorum talks about American exceptionalism and our freedoms. Our freedoms if you are white, insured, and straight. According to Rick Santorum. That's what I'm able to infer from the way he has lived his legislative life and his rhetorical life and the way he's running for president. That is what I am able to glean from everything Rick Santorum says. So it's not about our freedoms. It's about how he perceives our freedoms to be, the idealistic way. But the fact of the matter is that these were 19 rogues who perpetrated a horrendous act on America. They were governed and led by some crazier people with money and power and persuasion, and there was a network of them. And it wasn't because of our way of life. It was because of our presence over there, and it wasn't entirely because of we enjoy a freedom over here, and it was not entirely over envy. There is nuance here. It is not everybody who is Islamic either, and that is what is so disturbing. Again, we heard applause again at a time when I can't believe we're hearing applause, except when you think about who the audience is. You know, it's the fear of Islam. It's Islamophobia at play in a debate for President of the United States. It's about hate. And yes, while our freedoms and our excesses over here cause envy and cause consternation and are seen as a-religious by so many, it is not the majority feeling and is not the only thing we can point to here. American exceptionalism is a new concept. It seems almost a cult-like word, because what is American exceptionalism? It's when we can be our best. Rick Santorum's idea of American exceptionalism is very different from what mine might be. American exceptionalism is not about the same type of things for me as it is for Rick Santorum and for the people that follow him. So it's very vague, and it is very inappropriate to use as a reason why we were attacked, because we're so great. Is that what Rick Santorum is saying? Tell me how it's so great here for 150 million people to be in poverty, to have as much money combined. 150 million Americans have as much money combined as the 400 richest American families put together. That is not so great for people. That is not American exceptionalism. The fact that our poverty rate keeps growing and growing, that is not American exceptionalism. So you can point to a lot of reasons why we were attacked, and you can say that what I'm saying is too trite and wrong, and I would have a conversation with you about that. There are many reasons that we were attacked. There are many reasons that people there don't like us. It is not solely for one reason. It is not because they are Islamic. It is not because they are Islamic. And that is where Rick Santorum and the people like him and the people who support him are wrong. If this show had any kind of a theme, it was that the Republicans are not going to win the presidency and they're not going to win the Congress. It's the Democrats' opportunity not to lose it. I'm Michael Schur. We'll be back tomorrow with Cenk, and I will see you down the road talking more campaign. Thanks to Lucas and Jesus. And we'll be back now with Anna doing the Anna Hour, which I'm terribly excited about.
Welcome back to TYT. Anna Kasparian and Michael Schur with you. During the break, I received a couple tweets, but I wanted to read one from Hamada San 1. He says, Anna and Michael, would a pic of Scarlett Johansson's ass get me a mention? And then he gives you a link to Scarlett Johansson's ass.
Apparently it's implicitly a yes.
Yes, right. Well, you get a mention, and the reason why you get a mention is not because you sent me a link to a nude photo, but because that's actually one of the big entertainment news stories of the day. It turns out that Scarlett Johansson's phone was hacked, and now the FBI is investigating it because whoever hacked her phone was able to access nude photos of her, and they posted it all over the internet. I don't want to show you guys. In fact, I think it's illegal to show you guys at this point because the FBI is all over it. I don't want to mess around. But it's just interesting to see that as soon as a celebrity gets hacked in that way, the FBI is all over it, right? It's something that a government agency needs to get involved in. Do you know how often this happens? All the freaking time.
Yeah.
You know, just don't take your celebrity. Don't take naked pictures of yourself on your phone, which will maybe get lost, maybe get stolen. Of course people are going to access it. Drives me crazy.
Okay, so do we believe that it was hacked? I mean, because I feel like it's a case-by-case basis. When it's someone that we're like, oh yeah, they're looking for attention. Your phone wasn't hacked. Your computer wasn't hacked. How'd your computer get hacked? You were in the airport, whatever. Is it because we have this level of respect for Scarlett Johansson? We're like, Come on. She sent the pictures to somebody and somebody else leaked them.
Yeah, but nobody cares about somebody else's flabby ass. It becomes interesting when it's Scarlett Johansson's ass. I mean, you know.
But suddenly she's the virtuous one who got hacked and was never sending these pictures to anyone, you know?
Well, I know, but okay, is she
First
not
of all,
virtuous just because she had them?
Hold on.
Okay.
Okay.
No, I don't want to hold on. I want to ask that question.
No, okay.
Is she not virtuous just because she had them?
I don't think it has anything to do with virtue. You could take a naked picture of yourself. You could send it out.
No, it's not about the pictures. It's about
Right.
believing whether or not somebody hacked it. Now the FBI is on it.
Okay,
Right.
that's what I wanted to answer. No one takes pictures, naked pictures of themselves for their own amusement. No one. So of course she sent it out to someone else. Do I believe her phone got hacked? It's a possibility. I don't know. The FBI is investigating it, which I think is crazy. But I guess we'll see what happens in the end. But the point.
Would you believe it if Kim Kardashian said my phone got hacked and it's my ass?
No, because Kim Kardashian is on a completely different level. Kim Kardashian has done it not once, not twice, but throughout her entire career. Whereas Scarlett Johansson is actually, an actress who has starred in several films. And
that was the answer I was looking
Right.
for. So do we hold her to a different level than other people? Yes. Why? I don't know, but if everybody.
But you know why.
How do we know?
You know why.
But also, how do we know these things if they are like? Here's the thing: it happens to Scarlett Johansson. She has people and representatives and handlers and agents and managers and people who will call the FBI and call investigators and say, "Look what happened." Right? If it happens, if it happens to Steve O, let's think of somebody else. Let's think of. Because I don't want to think about those pictures. But let's say it happens to somebody else that we know. They're not going to, they're not going to call the FBI, and they're going to say, "Oh my God, this happened! I can't believe it! I'm so humiliated." Right?
Look, there was a case where, we were talking about internet trolls. There were a group of internet trolls that were saying that they're going to send someone to my house to rape me. Okay,
Yeah.
I'm not kidding you. And this went on for days. They had my home address. It was a very scary situation. We tried to contact the FBI about it. You want to know what the FBI did? Dick. They didn't
Really?
care at all. Okay, so when it comes to someone getting actual threats of getting raped, actual violence,
Yeah.
it doesn't matter. The FBI doesn't care. When it comes to Scarlett Johansson's ass possibly getting leaked by her, or possibly getting leaked by someone she sent the pictures to, or possibly getting hacked, the FBI is all over it,
Right.
which is ridiculous.
Yeah. No, I mean that's ridiculous, and yeah.
It's a nude picture. You took a nude picture. You shouldn't have done it if you didn't want it out there. It's that simple.
Number two, has when we've seen her ass on movies before, we've seen it. It's okay. We've seen it. No one's looking at the pictures and going, "Oh, you disgusting, nasty chick." I mean, we've seen it in movies. You've showed your ass in movies. Fine, it's embarrassing because whatever, but
But it's also not like she's with some guy performing some crazy act. She's like,
She didn't Kim Kardashian it, right?
yeah, she didn't Kim it.
But look,
Kim
I think her nude pictures are actually very tasteful.
That's nice.
I mean, I saw them. I thought they were kind of artistic.
A little inspiration for Anna Kasparian.
For you to take a nude picture,
Hack this phone. Hack it.
All right. Let's talk about Al-Qaeda now.
Okay.
Al-Qaeda is now using the internet to recruit people online. It turns out that in December of 2009, if you can remember, there were the Virginia Five who traveled to Pakistan to join a terrorist organization. Now, the FBI is doing an investigation into that to figure out how this is happening. And it turns out that you see more and more like video games, cartoons, those types of things online where, young men will watch it and, that ideology is kind of represented. And then, it'll turn into something bigger where they're all of a sudden directed to some sort of forum or some sort of blog that talks about the ideology, indoctrinates them, and then all of a sudden, after this indoctrination process, they decide, hey, I'm going to join Al-Qaeda. Which is, look, it sounds like a crazy conspiracy, but obviously it happened with 5 people in Virginia.
Yeah.
I mean, if people are impressionable, especially young people, it's a possibility. So I guess the good thing is that we have people investigating this and trying to stop it, but Al-Qaeda's getting smarter and smarter. They're using social
I wonder what the
networking.
questionnaire is like,
Right.
what they actually have to fill out, the Al-Qaeda, and then do you have to click to agree to the terms and conditions?
No, but it has nothing to do with the questionnaire. That's the
Right.
interesting part. It's like a video game. Like you'll come across a video game online, and it's
Yeah.
like a kill George Bush video game, right?
Yeah.
And you'll play it, and
Right.
it's,
I know that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you'll play it, and they'll say, "Hey, we want this person."
Why don't you check out our forum?
Right? Exactly.
Yeah. So anyway, I thought that was interesting. I wanted to mention it. Now a little bit of controversy, as Cenk would say on the show. The New York Police Department is being investigated after a couple police officers were caught grinding on scantily clad female parade goers. Now this took place during the West Indian Day Parade in Brooklyn. We have the video for you guys. I want you to watch, and then we're all going to decide whether they're guilty or not guilty. So this video goes on and on and on. Obviously, the officers are partying rather than, I don't know, doing what they're supposed to do, enforcing the law. But now the question is...
But they're not doing what they're supposed to do. I mean, they're there to control order. Just because they're having fun and being silly.
Right.
That doesn't mean they're not going to, if there's a heist, they're not going to run and stop the heist.
This case is being compared to a recent case where a police officer was having sex in public on a hood of a car, and people were really outraged about it.
In Mexico,
yeah, which of course you can understand that, because there could be a case where, you know, the police officer is taking advantage of a situation. There's obviously a power issue there. And that was a serious case and something that Cenk thought was okay, but Steve and I agreed was wrong. But anyway.
This is people in the neighborhood. It's a parade. Yes. They're celebrating the West Indies. It's a neighborhood parade in New York. These are the beat cops that are on that beat, that are assigned to that parade that day. It's ridiculous. I mean, they're having a good time. Yeah. It's fun. It's funny. What do you want out of your police officer? I mean, this looks like everybody's having fun. The people are not afraid of the cops. The cops are playing with the people. Everybody goes home.
The cops are playing hard with the people.
Yeah,
like,
but they're playing hard. But they're playing along, and they're getting yucks, and it's not like anybody's, you know.
This isn't a debate. I agree with you. Like, they didn't do anything wrong. They're dancing. They're having a good time. I think it's more important for people to feel relatable to cops than to constantly fear them.
Right.
And here, look, it's a light situation. They're having fun. They're in the middle of a parade, and I agree with you 100%. I was a little uncomfortable when one of the cops did really hard thrusting. Like, he could have just calmed down a little bit.
He was going for the big laugh, but. You know, come on.
Yeah,
I understand. It's disrespectful. Maybe you can look at it in so many different ways. Mm-hmm. It's not worth talking about and complaining about, though. It's just
right.
You know, would you rather have that, or would you rather others just standing there like a Secret Service officer?
That makes me uncomfortable.
Yeah, exactly.
Secret Service officers are scary. I remember we went to the DNC and the RNC. In both situations, there's Secret Service all over the place, and they have like their headphones, like I have in my ear right now. Right. They're just like standing like this. And their glasses, they're like the Men in Black.
Right, and they're no personalities, no sense of humor.
Exactly.
They're cool, though. I like them.
What about you, Steve? Very curious.
Not guilty. They're just having fun with the community, and the community embraced them. It's fine. The other case is totally different.
Right.
It was all surreptitious, and the guys looking around.
Totally different.
Yeah, that's bad. In fact, the other one was a violation of law. I mean, you know, public indecency. This is fine. Have fun. Dancing was bad, but it was fine.
Mm-hmm. All right, so not guilty. We have a ruling.
Yeah.
A mother.
3-0.
Yeah. A mother in Philadelphia who donated her kidney to her son has been fired from her job. It turns out that she needed to take some time off to recover and heal after the surgery, but her employer at Aviation Institute of Maintenance decided to replace her while she was healing.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just... You have these days where you give up on humanity a little bit.
No, I know.
This is one of those days.
It's one of those days. It's like we were talking in the first hour about Ron Paul and Wolf Blitzer asked him that question about letting somebody die and everybody applauding, and it's the same type of thing. I mean, she signed a waiver. This woman signed a waiver saying that it's implied that her job may not be there when she gets back, etc. But it's not that her job wasn't there. It's just that she was replaced. So someone was doing that job. And it's a question of decency. It's a question of how in the world could they hire somebody to do that? Or not say, listen to the new hire, you're going to be here for 6 weeks until, Beth gets back from her leave. She's unbelievable story. She's giving her kidney to her son. It's beautiful, and we paid for it. That's what it should be.
Right. I know. It shows you that some people don't have any heart. And it turns out that the employer, of course, got a ton of criticism after he replaced her. So now what he's doing is he's not firing the replacement. The replacement is still there. However, this woman who donated her kidney, her name is Claudia Rendon, by the way, she will continue getting paid until another position opens up, and then they'll place her in that position. But of course that only happened after the criticism, right?
Yeah.
Before it was completely fine to get rid of her after she donates a kidney to her son.
Yes.
Just
if you
sick.
need aviation maintenance, do not go to Aviation Institute of Maintenance.
I would guess that they would teach about aviation maintenance at that place.
At the Institute, yes. If you need an education in aviation maintenance, don't go to that school.
Yes. All right.
You don't want to do the Southwest story?
Yeah, did we skip that story?
We skipped it.
We did.
Yeah.
Let's do it. This is an important story.
Okay.
So 37-year-old Mary Purcell from New York is in a bit of trouble after she called in to the Tucson International Airport and said that there was a bomb on one of the flights. Okay, she called 2 different times and she made these fake bomb threats or tried to report fake bombs 2 different times. And it turns out that there were no bombs. The only reason why she made the phone calls was because her mother and brother were flying on this Southwest flight to New York.
Yeah.
And she was concerned because they were flying on September 10th, which was the day before.
Which was near September 11th.
Right. So she was freaking out.
Yeah.
And they say that the terrorists did not win.
Yeah. I understand somebody being uneasy about flying on September 11th. Just uneasy. But I don't understand about calling it a bomb on September 10th because it's near September 11th. Ridiculous. I'm just ridiculous. Everybody is afraid of ridiculous.
She's getting mental health care. It turns out that, she's not completely healthy.
Well,
so
okay, then it's less ridiculous.
It's less ridiculous, but at the same time, look at the amount of fear people feel. We on Monday, Cenk and I did the story about how on the day of September 11th, the 10-year anniversary, everyone was on edge, and you hear all these cases about people on airplanes that are freaked out about people going to the bathroom too often during a flight. So they would report it, and then people would have to get escorted off the plane, by FBI officials. It was ridiculous. So everyone's on edge, and everyone is so scared, and it just shows you how powerful the media is. You see the media, you see government officials constantly talking about the terrorism threats, Al-Qaeda, the Taliban, all of that stuff. You constantly hear about it.
Yeah, and it's also superstition. I mean, people are generally superstitious anyway, and superstition is ridiculous, but people have their superstition. So I understand somebody saying, I'm not going to fly. Well, anyway, she is mentally ill, and it makes it a little bit different, this story.
Right.
Because that's mentally ill.
But this case has happened several times before.
Yeah,
where
this
people
type
will
of
call
thing,
in
yeah.
a bomb because they just don't want their significant other or a family member to fly.
Yeah.
Not just on September 11th, they just don't want them to fly, period. Which is ridiculous.
That's ridiculous.
Yeah.
I'm going to be a bad guy and say I'm kind of sick and tired of this whole 9/11 stuff. And here's why. I feel like 80 to 95% of the time I hear about 9/11, it's being talked about by the person for their own personal aggrandizement or some exploitative purpose. Mm-hmm. I mean, even this weekend with the NFL, every single game started with this giant 100-yard large flag. And it was like this, look at me, I'm so patriotic. I love this country. It was like Mitt Romney all over again. I love this country. I love the Constitution. I love all the amendments.
And then the Raiders game continued with 23 more flags, I think.
Yeah, it is unbelievable. And look, I get the whole tribute part of it, and the ones who suffered deep personal losses, I get that too. And it's the 10th anniversary, so we commemorate it. But, I want a deeper discussion if we're going to have one, and not this punchline that has become. And the self-serving political
Do you think that it's
prop that it's become. It's really sad, actually.
Do you think that it's just a political prop? I definitely think it's a political prop when it comes to people in government. Politicians use it all the time. Yeah. But when it comes to the media, do you think it's a political prop? Especially on the anniversary of September 11th, because the sense that I got is that the media almost had an obligation to constantly talk about it on that day. The public held them accountable to that. So do you think that might be one of the reasons, or do you think it's just, a self-serving thing that the media does?
Well, it's both. And like I said, I think about 80% of it's self-serving. And it's this whole feeding cycle of, look at us, we have the best 9/11 coverage. Ours is better than theirs. And it's just on and on and on.
Yeah, I heard somebody on the news talking the other day on September 11th about what Steve's talking about now. And they were comparing it to, and this is out of even my frame of reference, the Pearl Harbor memorials that happened after Pearl Harbor, and how at that time there were only a few different news mediums. A lot was in radio, but they did do the same types of things every year until about 10 years after, and then it became the 25th or the 20th or the 25th. It wasn't every single year all the time. Mm-hmm. But again, now everywhere we turn, including right here, you have a news outlet of people talking about it. And so the fact that competition to which Steve alluded exists is I think more a testament to the fact that there's so many news outlets to report this, and our ability to consume so much of it is at a high. It has to be at a tight right now. So I think when you heard the guy talking about Pearl Harbor, he said, yes, you got a little uncomfortable hearing about it all the time, constantly, every year. Oh, it's Pearl Harbor Day. It's December 7th. It's Pearl Harbor Day. It's Pearl Harbor Day. And that they were going to talk about making it into a holiday, making Pearl Harbor Day a holiday, and that simmered down. And I guess over time this sort of simmers down. But when you have sort of a divided electorate and people politicizing it, then it plays right into that hand. Mm-hmm. And I think that's sort of what we're dealing with.
Yeah, and it's so frustrating because we spout off nonstop about 9/11, how we will never forget. Never forget what? And
how can you forget it?
And at the same time, they don't want to fund health care for the 9/11 first responders.
Oh, yeah.
They haven't implemented, nine or maybe more of the 9/11 Commission recommendations. And, so again, this whole thing is just like, just a soundbite for people.
Right, and maybe they have, in fact, forgotten when you think about stuff like that. The best, worst thing about 9/11 that I saw, I was at the grocery store the other night. It was the night of 9/11, and there was a guy wearing a T-shirt that said America on the front, and on the back it said, putting the F back in freedom. Because for 10 years since these damn hijackers, it has been readum. This has just been readum. I had no idea. I went to bed thinking about it. I called my brother. I had no idea. I still don't know what it means. What is putting the F back in freedom? I have no idea.
Man, that's embarrassing.
I know.
That's embarrassing.
But it was awesome. He decided I'm going to wear this shirt on September 11th.
I can't. That's horrible. Okay, that's it for our show. If you're a member, stick around. We will have a post-game show for you guys. I know we've been neglecting you just a little bit, so we will have a post-game. And for everyone else, we'll see you tomorrow. Cenk will be back tomorrow, by the way.